Okay, Charlie, it's a pleasure to have you here talking with Science and Wisdom Live. I have a few questions for you today. I understand you're an expert in both dreams and Buddhism and how to use some dream and sleep practices for both helping people that have, trauma and other problems, as well as just improving and bettering our life. Is that right?
Yeah, the bit about me helping people better their lives and learn the dream practices. Yes, I'm not so sure about the expertise in either Dharma nor dream yoga, but I enjoy the practices.
Yeah.
I think that's the important thing with the dream yoga practice. It is something you do. The theory kind of doesn't wash well. You need to have had the experience, and I have had a lot of those experiences. So it's that experience that I like to share and help other people have that experience too.
That's wonderful. I appreciate your humility too. That's very consistent with any Dharma practitioner. So I appreciate that. Could you start off just by talking about why we dream and why dreams are important?
Yeah, so why we dream. So the kind of neuroscientific view on this is that we dream for reconsolidation of memory. So dreams are about, consolidating new memories, dreaming of future possibilities, and also dreaming of the past, especially of past trauma. So the two kind of main reasons we dream are reconsolidation of present memory with view to future possibility, uh, but crucially also dreaming of the past, especially trauma. So there's a lot of research now that I look at in my new book that nightmares and anxiety dreams are really good for us, especially anxiety dreams. Actually, very fascinating research they did on the at the Sorbonne Medical School. Very difficult exam to pass that medical school exam. Only about 10% of people cut the grade, and so you had a lot of nightmares and anxiety dreams before the being reported before the night of the exam, before the finals. And what they found was a direct correlation between success in the exam and the frequency and intensity of the nightmares or anxiety dreams before. And they conclude, we don't know what it is, but anxiety dreams seem to give people a cognitive edge before a high value event, such as an exam, or the other thing was going on holiday. You know, if you're about to go on vacation and the night before you have that terrible dream that you can't find your passport or that the roads to the airport are blocked, that's not a prophecy that your vacation is going to go terribly. It's actually a preparation dream. It's like a fire drill. You know, the mind runs us through these worst case scenarios, not so that they do happen, but so that we're better prepared to meet them if they are to happen. So it's like a threat survival simulation here. So anxiety dreams are really good. Anxiety dreams being about future possibilities and nightmares about past events, especially traumatic events. It's actually very important that we dream about them. They did another study where they found that people who are in the experiencing a lot of depression and trauma from heartbreak, those people who were remembering dreams, but not remembering dreams about the partner who'd broken their heart, for example, didn't actually get through the depression much quicker. Whereas those people who were dreaming about the person who broke their heart and think, oh God, why do I keep dreaming about them? This is so terrible. I'm being punished even in my sleep. No, not at all. In fact, they recovered much quicker. So we often interpret these bad dreams as kind of a punishment from the psyche. It's not, you know, your mind has got your back. It wants, as Carl Jung said, there's a mechanism in the psychic apparatus that strives for balance between the dark and the light. So even when we have dreams that seem to be kind of punishing us or hurting us, in fact, they're really trying to heal us. And of course, that's been part of Jungian psychological thought for many years now. But now we've got the neuroscience to back it up, which is brilliant. And then another bit, if we're doing all the three perspectives I like to look at, neuroscience, psychology, and Tibetan Buddhism, the Buddhist view on dreams is quite interesting. When the Dalai Lama was asked this, why do we dream? He said, if you ask us why we dream, within Vajrayana Buddhism, we have no answer other than the dream's potential as a training ground for spiritual practice, lucid dreaming. So he's basically saying every dream in which you're not lucid is a missed opportunity. So in the West, we have this idea that lucid dreams are peak experiences. In the East, actually, it's non-lucid dreams that are strange. Lucid dreams are absolutely a normal phenomenon and one that we could be having in every dream if we had trained our minds in recognition enough while we're awake.
So you made two amazing points there. To go back to the first one, so what you're saying is bad dreams are actually good for us, that they help us work.
Put that on a t-shirt. Bad dreams are good for you. Yeah, basically, that's it in a nutshell.
That's amazing. And this isn't just anecdotally, you're saying there's scientific studies now showing that people actually do better in tests and get over relationships if they have these supposedly bad dreams.
Yeah, so I'm very geeked out on this because, as we both know, this interview was supposed to be last week, but I had to cancel it because I had the deadline for my new book. And the new book, Wake Up to Sleep, is all about this. It's about practices to work with stress or trauma-affected sleep. So yeah, I'm really up on this research. And there's loads of it. And actually, there's been a lot happening the last year because of lockdown. People have been experiencing a lot more anxiety dreams, a lot more nightmares. And they've now done some studies to back up the theories that everybody had, which is that essentially, because we have so much less day residue, which is basically the stuff we experience in the day, we dream about as a way to kind of file through, update our survival mechanisms. But because we've gone from seeing like 100 people in a day, or maybe 1,000 people in a day, if you commute through busy London to work in a bank or something, you've gone from seeing 1,000 people a day to seeing 2 people a day, your partner and your cat. So suddenly there's less to dream about. So do we then dream less? No, dreaming's so important for the brain. But what the brain does have to do is dig a little deeper. So it starts to go back into our past. It starts to go back into our traumas. It starts to explore our anxieties. Again, not as a bad thing, but as a way to kind of update our survival mechanisms and just, do a bit of spring cleaning. That's what's been happening. But people have been interpreting that spring cleaning as, oh my God, everyone's having nightmares and anxiety dreams. It must be because of COVID. I mean, it might be because there is kind of an overwhelming atmosphere of fear and anxiety that could be affecting it. But in most cases, it's probably a very good sign. Just like I've been able to spring clean my flat because I haven't been traveling every weekend. I think it's a little bit the same with the dreaming mind too. Lockdown's given us space to do a bit more spring cleaning.
So far, you've talked about the way we automatically do these things, that we have, dreams about tests and dreams about past relationships, anxieties. Can you talk about how you control that? Because I think you've talked about how you could use dreams to deal with PTSD and trauma. So is there some kind of a training process where you can use dreams productively in this way?
It's really lucid dreaming is the best way to be able to do that. Lucid dreaming is a learnable skill. And once you learn, it gives you the ability to, probably wouldn't use the word control, but be able to direct, to co-create, to facilitate a certain movement through the dream. It can certainly feel like control. I mean, you can get lucid and call out, inner child, come to me. And on 9 times out of 10, a seemingly physicalized personification of your link to childhood will appear before you. And you can hold their hand, you can dialogue with them, you can embrace them. I had a therapist at a workshop a couple of years ago, and I was explaining this, and they went, hang on. You're telling me you can meet the inner child in a lucid dream? And I was like, yeah. And they went, it can take me months to get, she said, it can take me months to get, especially my male clients who even admit they have an inner child. You're telling me you can meet it in what seems like a physicalized form and talk to it? And I was like, yeah, absolutely. And then she kind of paused for a little bit and went, wow, that could change everything. And I kind of thought, yeah, maybe it could. I don't know. I'm not a therapist. You tell me, but it seems like it could. So yeah, when you're lucid, there is the possibility of calling out directly to interact with aspects of your own psychology. So it can definitely seem like you're controlling. I just mean, it's not about dominating the dream. It's not about enslaving the dream or controlling it. It's about befriending it. And if you get into a really good relationship with your dreamer, then most of the things you ask for, it will provide you with. But it's very hard to do any damage. Actually, you mentioned something about trauma there. People are often worried about re-traumatization through lucid dreaming. Again, this is just anecdotal, but I've seen so many of these over the past 13 years, probably at least once a year. I've got at least a dozen of these examples of, if people do try and do something in the lucid dream they're not ready for, this intelligence within the unconscious mind just blocks them. The last one I remember was my friend Maxwell. He got access denied. He tried to look at some childhood trauma and literally called out for it. I can't remember what phrase he used, but let's say he just said, trauma from my childhood, come to me, I'm ready to meet you. And the dream created like a neon sign. It went, access denied, access denied, access denied. The first time it happened to me, I tried to visit Dewa Chen, the Buddhist pure realm, kind of like Buddhist heaven for those who aren't into Dharma stuff. And I call out in the lucid dream, Dewa Chen, I want to go to Dewa Chen. Nothing happened. I thought, I'll try again. Call out a second time, nothing happened. Third time, as if the rule of 3, I call out, Dewa Chen, take me to Dewa Chen. And this woman walks in with a clipboard into the lucid dream. And she looks down at the clipboard and goes, Dewa Chen, no, you're not ready for that. Boom, I wake up. And I was like, who was that woman? You know, some sort of internal regulation mechanism in personified form. Maybe she was what Jung described as that internal mechanism that strives for psychic balance. Maybe she was the personification of it. Who knows? But it seems like a pretty safe place when you're in there, the lucid dream. Very hard to re-traumatize yourself in a lucid dream, partly because there's an off switch. If stuff gets too scary, boom, you wake up. However, in a one-on-one therapy session, if you're working with a therapist who isn't holding the space well, and you get re-triggered and re-traumatized, there is no off switch. So in many ways, the lucid dream is actually possibly in some cases a safer place to explore trauma, because it's happening in REM dreaming sleep. And we know now, scientifically verified, REM was custom designed to integrate trauma. It was designed for that. We know because we've now got these studies that I mentioned before that show not only is dreaming about unpleasant things that happen to us good for us, it's a prerequisite for healing. We kind of have to be having these dreams. So it seems in the lucid dream state, we're only doing something that would naturally happen anyway, but we're kind of quickening the process, as it were.
So you're becoming your own therapist in your dreams.
I believe that's a quote from Lama Yeshe.
Lama Yeshe, yeah, that's
right, yeah.
One of his great books.
Absolutely.
So I know this is somewhat of an involved process, and there's all kind of both lay and spiritual books about it, but can you talk a little bit about the process of becoming able to lucidly dream?
Yeah, sure. So I've got something I call the 3Ds, which is kind of what I use for a question like this, where we don't want to use the whole interview to go through techniques, but let's plant a few seeds. So the 3Ds: dream recall, dream diaries, and dream signs. So the first one is training the mind to remember your dreams. First thing to know is that everybody dreams every single night. It's actually very hard to stop the human brain from dreaming, because it's so vital for this ability to integrate memory and plan for the future. It is possible if you have a heavy head injury or a stroke, you might stop dreaming for a little bit, but very quickly the brain will rewire itself, because dreaming is so critical for our survival. So remind yourself you are definitely dreaming every night. If you get 8 hours sleep, you probably have about 2.5 hours of dreams, 5 dream periods split between 2.5 hours. So then why don't I remember my dreams, you might be thinking. Sometimes it's as simple as, when did you last try? And often when I say that, people think, oh, is that a trick question? I'm like, no, it's not at all. Just tonight, when you fall asleep, remind yourself of what you've just heard and think, well, I know I'm going to be dreaming tonight. So yeah, I really want to notice. I want to remember my dreams tonight. That in itself can be enough. But if you really want to make it a practice that's going to have a high hit rate, then as you fall asleep tonight, you're going to pass through a state called the hypnagogic state, which is that transitional state of mind where your eyes are closed. You might get the little mini dreams. You're not fully asleep yet. You can still hear the sounds in the room, but it's this kind of transitional state. And crucially, the brain goes into deep alpha and theta, which are the same brainwaves of hypnosis. So it's a little bit like a hypnotic trance state. And because of that, really good state to implant a hypnotic suggestion to remember your dreams. So as you fall asleep tonight, you're in that drowsy state just before sleep comes on. Be saying over and over in your mind, tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. Tonight I remember my dreams. I have excellent dream recall. If you want to do it the Tibetan way, you'll do that 21 times. And you could count it on a mala or something like that, but whatever, use your fingers 21 times, or at least 2 or 3 minutes as you fall asleep. If you do that, there's a very high chance of you remembering your dreams the next morning, or if you wake up to pee in the night. So that's the first step. Step 2, dream diaries, writing down your dreams. This isn't actually to interpret them. The dream interpretation lineage is a brilliant lineage, brilliant Western lineage, actually, if you look at Jungian dream interpretation. But we need to kind of keep our cups of tea a little bit separate, to use a Buddhist metaphor here. So if you're writing down your dreams for lucid dreaming, dream yoga practice, we're not writing them down to interpret them. We're writing to spot patterns. Well, even before that, every time you write down a dream, you are making conscious the memory of an unconscious process. So you're creating this link between the unconscious and consciousness towards it. And that's the same link that becomes activated in the dream state. Every dream you write down makes it easier to lucid dream. But from a more practical point of view, the reason you write down the dream is you start to spot patterns. Let's say you write down your dream for like a week. And by the end of the week, you look back and go, oh yeah, look, I always dream about being back at school, or I often dream of that beach we used to go to as a kid, or I often dream about my dead grandma, whatever it is. That leads to the third D, your dream signs. Dream signs being any aspect of the dream that can indicate to you that you're dreaming. by keeping a dream diary, you start to take note of your dream signs. And actually simply the act of taking note of them creates this critical reflective habit of mind. And it's that critical reflective habit that flows into our dreams. We know that waking state habits flow into our dreams. If you're in the habit of being scared of spiders, you're in the habit of being scared of them in your dreams. You can make a habit of looking closely, going, oh, what in that dream could have indicated to me I was dreaming? Oh, dead grandma, the beach I used to go to as a kid, being naked in public. Okay, just by noting them, you're creating those triggers. So the next time you're dreaming, you're naked in public and you think, naked in public? God, last time I was naked in public was that dream. This is a dream now, boom, and you can become lucid. So those are three little steps you can take. There are literally dozens of techniques from several different lineages in Buddhism and the Mexican lineages and the Sufi lineages, but those are three little starters.
So most of what you described was actually just getting better recall of your dreams, and that will naturally lead towards lucidity. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, the first two Ds are the recall, but actually the dream signs thing, that's creating triggers.
Okay.
You're creating kind of if you're thinking to yourself, oh, I owe Scott $20. I've got to pay back Scott his $20. Next time I see a bank, I've got to remember to get out some money from him. I can forget about this, but the next time I see a bank, I'm going to remember Scott. So it's prospective memory triggers. And that's how dream signs are working. So by creating by acknowledging them as a dream sign, you're creating this prospective memory trigger. But I mean, they're all mind training techniques, definitely. Yeah. They're all mind training techniques. And then there's a whole host of techniques you do as you're falling asleep, certain visualizations, breathing techniques, meditations.
So you recognize the things that appear in your dreams through the mindfulness and the journaling. And then you say to yourself, when I see those things, I'm going to remember that it's a dream.
Yeah.
That's a
and
technique.
Even fall asleep, like trying to dream about them. Like, if your dead grandma, fall asleep looking at a photo of her. Tonight, I dream of grandma. When I dream of grandma, I know I'm dreaming. Tonight, I dream of grandma. When I dream of grandma, I know I'm dreaming. It's quite yang. A lot of Dharma practitioners are often quite shocked by this. It's all about non-doing. It's like, once you get lucid, non-do all you like. But to get lucid, there's a lot of doing. It is very yang. There is quite a lot of hope and fear too. It's like, it's pretty dualistic practice. It leaves the absolute possibilities of non-duality. But to get there, it is quite yang. There's quite a lot of stuff to do.
I've also heard these techniques where you look at something that would always appear to you, like your hand in everyday life,
checks,
and you say, like, this is a dream. In real life, you say that, and then when that happens in your dream, because that worked for me when I tried it sometimes.
Yeah, exactly that. Certain checks. So that in the Western lineages of we can call it lineage now. It's 40 years of lucid dreaming. It's about checking your hand to see if you're dreaming or not, and then acknowledging, oh no, I'm not dreaming, I'm awake. The Tibetan practice is almost identical, but it flips it. You walk around all day saying, I am dreaming, I am dreaming. So eventually you dream about that, and you're dreaming, I am dreaming. Oh yeah, I literally am dreaming. Okay, I'm lucid. So it's similar techniques, but the philosophical end goal are so different that they kind of they start like that, and then they diverge, and then they come back to the same place.
This might be a nice time to ask you about that illusory nature of reality. Like, how does the illusion of dreams help us understanding, some illusory aspects of reality?
So from the Buddhist point of view, it said every time you have a lucid dream, you get like a teeny taste of awakening. Because in a non-lucid dream, you think that everything you're experiencing is outside of you, separate from you, and dualistically existing apart from you. Then you become lucid and you realize, oh, wow, it's not outside of me, it's inside of me. It's not separate from me, it's totally non-separate from me. It's not dualistically existing. It's actually part of a non-dual projection of my own mind. A little bit like apparently what would happen if you reach full awakening in the waking state. So it said every time you have a lucid dream, it's like a little drop in the bucket. And if you get enough of these drops, eventually they might overflow and have this experience of lucid living in the waking state. And I'm still waiting on that, but who knows? Maybe the little drops are building up. They're probably evaporating so fast, who knows? But yeah, this is the idea that lucid dreaming can be used as a training ground, not only for awakening, but exploration of emptiness. So this idea of emptiness, which I often think Mingyur Rinpoche's description of it as pure potentiality is such a better description. So from my ignorant point of view, it helps me understand it a lot more. But this idea of kind of form emptiness, if you go into the lucid dream, you can really explore that, because you're fully lucid. Okay, I'm dreaming. And I pick up a cup and I can touch it. Oh, wow, this cup has form. No, it seems to have form, but I have the realization, the knowledge that it is empty of inherent existence. It's made of mind. So suddenly these huge philosophical concepts like form emptiness, even someone like me can start to understand them. Like, oh, wow, I get it. Form emptiness, form emptiness. And then you wake up from that dream, you write it down, and the next day you pick up a cup and you just have a tiny moment. I mean, it gets overcome by my ignorance so quickly, but might have just a split second of like, oh yeah, form emptiness. And then of course the veils of ignorance cloud over if you're anything like me, but it can really help with that recognition in the waking state. And the cool thing is we've got science on this too. I mean, not literally the form emptiness stuff, but they found that people who have a lot of lucid dreams, oh, here's a good headline for you: lucid dreaming gives you a bigger brain. They found that people who have a lot of lucid dreams, because they're increasing blood flow to a certain part of the brain to do with like insight and thinking outside the box, not only does that part of the brain actually grow bigger, it kind of swells and has more gray matter density. But in the waking state, they found that lucid dreamers, because of that kind of overactivation of the insight part of the brain, they're more likely to have insights and think outside the box, be kind of lateral thinkers compared to non-lucid dreamers. So it seems like we've even got some neuroscience that might be pointing towards the same thing the great Buddhist teachers are saying, that if you, by practicing in the lucid dream, it's like a laboratory for enlightened action, for enlightened wisdom, that will not only affect the third of your life you're asleep, but directly impact the 2/3 that you're awake. Because if it didn't, to be honest, it wouldn't be such a big deal. Like if all the spiritual practice you did in the lucid dream, all the trauma integration you can do, all the awareness of projection and exploration of form emptiness you could do, if that only affected the third of your life you spent sleeping, kind of so what? No big deal. If you then wake up and you're still acting like an idiot, there's been no change. But the great thing that we know from lucid dreaming, both from the neuroscientific evidence and from the Buddhist teachings, is that what you do in the lucid dream counts. It directly changes your waking state attitudes. You know, if you integrate a fear in a lucid dream, how do you know it's worked? Because the next day you simply won't be as afraid of that thing you were afraid of. You can test this stuff. You don't have to believe it. And it's the same with the form emptiness stuff. It's like you can see the next day, like, oh, well, grasping is reduced here. I feel much more in a state of mindfulness, or much more insightful, or whatever it is. So that's a cool thing about lucid dreaming. You don't have to believe this stuff. There's no guru to worship. There's no cult to be part of. There's no religion to pledge allegiance to. They're just a set of practices you learn, and anyone can learn them. I learned them at 16. You can learn them at any age. And then you engage the practices and something happens, something shifts in your mind. You can feel it.
So one aspect of emptiness is to understand the role the mind plays in constructing a reality. So you were saying when you're dreaming, you have 100% mentally constructed reality. So it's quite understandable, the role of mind constructing reality. And then when you wake up, you hopefully then maintain some percentage. So you don't go back down to 0% mind and believing everything is coming at you externally, but you see how your mind is co-creating and interpreting your reality, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, that's the theory. I don't think that's worked very well with me, but yes. You know, and if you have enough of those experiences, that becomes a habit. You know, that habit will become stronger and stronger and stronger. And you do notice that, like, oh, this is cool. You can watch, you learn to notice projection. And it's totally embarrassing when it happens. You know, usually it's whoever you're romantically involved with, and you'll be in the middle of an argument and you become lucid in it. And I use that term because it's the same feeling as a lucid dream, where you go, it's like a probably you get a gamma blast if they were to put you in fMRI at that point. It's like, boom. And you realize, oh my God, this is totally not about the rubbish I'm projecting here. This is about my relationship with my mother, or, you know, whatever it is. And it's amazing. And those increase with lucid dream frequency. Definitely. That's something you can kind of see as like, oh, wow, that's due to lucid dreaming. Because in the same way as you learn to recognize the internal projection, you can also recognize the kind of waking state projections a little bit more anyway.
Some people in the West, they cultivate lucid dreaming as a kind of sport, you know, and they go on little adventures or like try to make love to a celebrity or something
Oh,
like
well, yeah.
that. Can you talk a little bit, because you were talking about the Tibetan view that, you know, you're sleeping 8 hours a day, so that's time wasted, and why not transform it into practice? Can you talk about you know, the ways we might waste or really make the most of our dream time?
Yeah, man. I wasted the first 2 years of my lucid dream experience just having sex with celebrities. That's what I did. I was 16. I bought these books. I got really good at the practice really quick, just because I was kind of obsessed with it. But before I met Dharma, so I was just like, you know, Pamela Anderson, come to me. For any millennials watching, Google who Pamela Anderson is. This is showing my age. So I'd, you know, meet Pamela Anderson. I'd be really good at skateboarding, just messing about. And then later I got into Dharma, and it's, you know, they're saying, oh, this is like 1,000-year-old spiritual practice, and it can be used to face your fears and transform the mind and do all this kind of stuff. But you could absolutely use lucid dreaming just to kind of waste your time. I mean, what I did find when I started doing the beneficial stuff in lucid dreams is they became much, much longer. Like, I didn't really think you could have a lucid dream for more than like a minute or so. Now looking back on it, it's that my unconscious was kind of chucking me out because I was doing such non-beneficial stuff. I mean, maybe it wasn't that harmful. I guess it's just like having sex with yourself. It's about as harmful as masturbation, I guess. But it was like the dreamer kind of was not impressed. So I was having really short lucid dreams. When I started to do the kind of psychological growth work and the spiritual work, these dreams became really stable. And I now realize, yeah, there's a direct correlation. If you want really long, stable lucid dreams, do really beneficial stuff. Like if you go into the lucid dream, like if someone watching this gets lucid tonight, like, oh, I'm dreaming. Oh, wow, it's kind of cool, isn't it? You're not going to be in there that long. It's almost like there's an intelligence within the dream that kind of, the way I describe it is the dreamer doesn't like tourists. So if you go and just look around, taking photos, the dreamer's like, I've been doing this a long time, dude, without your interaction. So if you're not bringing anything to the table, see you later. Whereas if as soon as you get lucid, you're like, you know, heal childhood trauma, or doing my spiritual practice, or saying mantras for the benefit of all beings, something in the mind responds and goes like, oh, okay, this dude's a practitioner. This person's here to do serious healing work, and it just stabilizes the dream. So yeah, there's a direct correlation there. If you want long and stable lucid dreams, do beneficial healing stuff. And there's something in the mind that responds to that and kind of supports the practice. Maybe a bit like in the outer world. I think this is a compassionate universe. May not seem it all the time, but I think it fundamentally is. If we can enter into that possibility, then we see that our beneficial acts are supported so much more than our negative acts, I think.
And can you talk about what beneficial things are to do in your dreams? I mean, I know the standard ones in Buddhism, you know, you go and meet your teacher and take some Dharma teachings, meditate, so on. But for people who may not do those things or may not do them as much, what are other beneficial things you can do in your dreams?
Yeah, so that definitely. And just so we don't gloss over that, I mean, that is
Yeah,
really
yeah.
beneficial. Like Namko Nobu Rinpoche said that 1 moment of meditation in a lucid dream is equal to a 1-week retreat. The other Tibetan lineages say that in the lucid dream, you have 7 times the power of mind. So like 700% capacity of mind. So what you do, so if you say mantras in the lucid dream, do your spiritual practice in the lucid dream, it's very, very powerful. And even for people who aren't spiritual practitioners, if you go into the lucid dream and just do your mindfulness that you've learned off your Headspace app on your phone, do that. It doesn't have to be a Buddhist thing at all. So that would actually be my number one thing, is do your spiritual practice if you can. But if you weren't into that, then that can be a great place to work with trauma integration. So a lot of the stuff I've done in the last 3 years has been with military veterans coming back from, well, a lot of them are kind of Iraq and Afghanistan wars now I'm working with. And they might have recurring nightmares. We got a lot of research on this. And also I've seen this in practice. If you can train someone to become lucid in their nightmares, then rather than believing they are back in Iraq and under threat and having the kind of re-traumatization of one of those nightmares, they can become lucid and go, oh, I'm not really back in Iraq. I'm dreaming I'm back in Iraq. Just that in itself, the acknowledgement that what they thought was a recurrent re-traumatization is in fact a recurrent replay, a recurrent nightmare, can be enough to kind of lift the needle of the stuck record of post-traumatic stress disorder nightmares. And all you need is to lift the needle once. Research has shown it can take 2, 3, 4 months to get someone with recurring nightmares to teach someone to lucid dream till they get the stability to be able to enter one of those recurring nightmares. It can take 2, 3, 4 months. But once they can enter the recurring nightmares, in many cases, it only takes one. You can just get lucid once in one of those dreams. That can be enough to kind of lift the needle. So very powerful for trauma integration, for recurrent nightmares. For more broader trauma integration, let's say childhood trauma or sexual abuse trauma, something like that. Again, very powerful place to do that, to either become lucid within a recurrent nightmare or even to become lucid in a non-nightmarish lucid dream, but to call out for some aspect of either the trauma or the part of you that was traumatized. Can have very, very powerful effects. At the moment, there's been, I think there's about 8 or 9 neuroscientific studies on lucid dreaming for treatment of nightmares. In fact, the last one I was part of was at Swansea University. That hasn't been published yet, but apparently the results are very promising to use lucid dream intervention for nightmares. So that's another one, great for kind of working with trauma. It can also be used to ask big questions. This is a weird one, but it seems like, I mean, if we get really rational about it, we know that the unconscious mind doesn't forget. It's like a huge hard drive of data. So every book you've ever read, every TED talk you've ever watched, every good conversation you've ever had with someone, all of that is stored in this huge kind of library of wisdom, this huge kind of algorithm of possibility. So if you get lucid, it's like you get the keys to the library. So if in your lucid dream you call out, what career path should I take? Often you'll get an answer come back to you. And people say, who's the answer? Is it God? Is it something spiritual? Who knows? I think it's probably just you, but it's the you who has access to every memory and every bit of data, every bit of information you've ever been exposed to. So because there's such huge amounts of data, your unconscious can make a pretty good algorithm of possibility of like, this would be a good job for you. And you can wake up in the morning, you're like, oh, that actually is a really good idea. It's kind of that thing. And you can ask other questions too. I mean, I once asked, what's the nature of reality? And this huge, what's that TV show called? I can't remember, like Family Fortunes or something, but this like quiz TV show screen appeared. And it went, the nature of reality is, boom. And then it said obtainable through lucid dreaming. And I literally woke up laughing. That's such a cop out. Then I went to my teacher and I told him, and he went, true. And I was like, oh, wow, okay, cool. So it was true. But yeah, you can ask big questions. You can do spiritual practice. You can integrate trauma. Very interesting stuff around healing. In fact, we just got funding to run the first scientific research study on lucid dreaming as a treatment for physical ailments. We're running it with IONS Institute in America, which is Dean Radin's place. And it will be based on anti-inflammatory biomarkers in the bloodstream. A lot of anecdotal reports to show that you can heal, at least through some sort of maximized placebo effect, minor ailments through lucid dreaming. I've done ear infections, my eyes, torn shoulder, scapular thing. Someone in my book did kidney disease. So a lot of anecdotal reports that lucid dreaming can be used to affect a physical healing. But there's never been any science on it. But we just got funding to do this, and it will involve people spitting into a test tube. So we get a base level of how many anti-inflammatory biomarkers there are in their bloodstream. Then they will go into the lucid dream, and they could really perform any healing, because we know that any kind of healing response in the body leads to anti-inflammatories, kind of as the body kind of works with inflammation. So they'll have a lucid dream, let's say they heal tennis elbow, or they've got a bad ear or whatever it is, and then wake up, do another spit test, we'll send them to the lab. And if there is a marked increase in these anti-inflammatory biomarkers in the second spit test, we could theorize that there has been some sort of healing response based on the lucid dream action. If we can get anything close to that even being a possibility, it could be really groundbreaking research, because it opens up loads of other avenues, not just the lucid dream.
That's really wonderful. You know, they call it the placebo effect, but it's almost the worst name because it puts an object on something that has no object, right? Because really it's the mind effect, and it's 30%. Like, right, we know science knows that it's the 30% effect that your mind can heal you from anything, you know, from cancer to a cold.
I'm so glad you said that. Yes. Like anyone who says it's just the placebo, you know, we need to remove that prefix. It's like, if you say just the placebo, you don't understand the placebo. I mean, it's the only replicable element of every medical trial.
Exactly. Yeah.
The great Buddhist scholar, he said, I mean, he's so interesting on the placebo. He says, until we explain the placebo, reality is up for grabs. He said, there can be no unified theory of consciousness and reality until we explain the placebo effect, because it's remarkable. It can't be explained away. He referenced the study, a Parkinson's study, where the placebo, someone was given a placebo, and it's not just increase in dopamine that we need, that one needs to reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's. It's a very specific increase of dopamine, not too much, not too little. And this placebo led to exactly the correct increase in dopamine that was required to reduce the symptoms of Parkinson's. He said that one stuck in his head. It was like, until we can explain the placebo effect, everything's up for grabs.
And who was it who said that?
B. Alan Wallace.
Oh, Alan Wallace. Yeah, fantastic.
Sorry, Alan, if this gets back to you and I misquoted you, it was something pretty similar to that, I think.
Oh, no, that sounds like him. So I don't know if you mind. I mean, you've actually shared quite a number of personal experiences already. So could you talk about a dream that changed your life in some substantial way?
Yes, I could. This is like asking a chef what their favorite meal is, and suddenly you're like, have I got to eat it every day for the next month? Let's look at a recent one. Okay, well, quite recent, from the summertime. This one had a big impact because I hadn't had a lucid dream for ages. I hadn't been lucid dreaming for like 2-3 months. The first lockdown really affected my lucid dream ability, partly because I was dealing with a lot of personal problems. So I was definitely not in expression, I was in depression. I also just wasn't doing any lucid dream training. A lot of the training I do is when I teach, partly because kind of I have to turn up and do all the wake ups and do all this stuff. So anyway, to put in context, I hadn't had a lucid dream for 2-3 months. And then I taught a lucid dream workshop in Czech Republic. There were these few weeks where Europe opened up and you could travel. So I instantly went and taught at this big festival in a big retreat center in Czech Republic. And I became lucid. And in the lucid dream, it was like a false awakening. So I was suddenly in the workshop room with all the participants. And I realized I was lucid. And I realized that the participants in the dream would be like my inner students. I knew they were all me, but I was like, oh, it's part of me that learns. So, okay, I want to do a good demonstration here. So I thought I'll do some shadow work. So I call out, shadow, come to me. You know, this Jungian representation of the shadow, anything we've denied, disowned, rejected within the psyche. And then instantly I had a little bit of worry. God, I haven't had a lucid dream for 3 months. I'm not sure, like, I'm ready for shadow work. You know, it's quite kind of top shelf stuff. So I instantly went, golden shadow, you know, all our hidden talents and our spiritual side we might repress, but it was too late. My dreamer had heard me. And then I felt this thing appear on a chair and I was like, oh, I don't even want to look. And I looked and it was the archetypal representation of rage, of aggression, of all that is ugly, all of the mind poisons. And he was sitting on this chair like this, like vibrating with rage. And his hands were like Freddy Krueger hands, like long spikes on them like that. And he was looking at me like this. And I was like, oh God, well, I know that's me. That's my shadow. That's part of me. That's my repressed rage. That's my traumatized self. That's my everything that is disgusting me about this person. This is me. So I know what I have to do. I have to hug it. I have to show it love. So I walked up to him and it was really rageful. And I had to really remind myself, Charlie, your body's asleep in bed. This is a lucid dream. You've done this for a long time. Come on, you know what to do. But it was scary. And I went up to him and I put my arms out and he went, and like scowled. And then I went to embrace him. And as I did, his arms were like this and he went, Chung! And he put the Freddy Krueger things and they pierced through my biceps. And it really hurt. You can feel pain in a lucid dream. I mean, that's amazing. The illusion of pain. There was no dream. It was a dream arm and a dream Freddy Krueger hands, but I still felt pain. But you can feel pain, but you don't suffer from it because there's no aversion to it, because I know, oh, that hurts, but my real arm is fine. So it's a very interesting experience of pain without suffering. So I feel this pain. I'm like, ah, and I just embrace him. I went, it's all right, mate. I know you're me. I love you. And he went, ah, and I went, it's all right. You do whatever you want. I'm here. I love you. And then I just felt him go, and like release into my embrace. And I could feel the blood running down my arms, and I was hugging literally this monster that I knew was me. And then just this deep release of trauma, of maybe the depression I was in at the time, who knows, but it just came out. And then of course, if you cry in the lucid dream, you cry in the waking state. So I woke up with the tears. But that was a really strong one. It was strong because it was obviously a very impactful dream. But I think it was because I'd been on this kind of 3-month drought from lucid dreaming. And even though I've been doing it, this is my 20th year. Yeah, 17 when I started properly. So 20th year I've been doing this. That it still shocks me how powerful it can be. You know, you never really get used to it. It's never, oh yeah, lucid dreams are just chill. It's like, what did that thing, that shadow represent? What wounded past me was it? What childhood trauma was it? What abused aspect of me did it represent? I don't know. But I know that in that dream it was healed. And the next day I could feel something has shifted. I couldn't put my finger on it. You know, it's not so specific. You can go, oh, well, I definitely healed that trauma I got when my dad told me he didn't love me. You know, whatever it is, it's not so specific, but you can just feel in your body the next day you've released something. So that was a pretty strong one from about 6 months ago.
Wow. Thanks for sharing that. I was going to tell you, I'm really excited to go to sleep tonight and try some of these things, but now I'm also slightly scared. Now I'm slight.
My second dream plan was golden shadow coming. So anyone listening, I'm into this Jungian shadow stuff, but I don't want the full-on Freddy Krueger monster. If you call that golden shadow come to me, that's very strong, but actually just as scary. A lady on one of my retreats a couple of years ago, she wasn't up for the dark shadow stuff. She's like, oh no, it's gonna be too scary. So she got lucid that night in the retreat, and she called that golden shadow come to me. And this huge Buddha, Chenrezig, Avalokiteshvara Buddha, boom, appeared in the dream, as big as a mountain. And she said it was radiating blinding light. And she was like, ah, and she woke up screaming. She said, that was just as scary. You know, our hidden golden potential can be just as scary as our inner monsters, but both are equally as beneficial to explore and embrace in the lucid dream.
Yeah, well, the good ones, they see through you, right? Like that's the thing. When you're around a pure being, it's like in that other case, you're seeing your darkness, but when you're around a pure being, you feel that they see through to your worst side, and that's scary in that other way, right?
Exactly. It's still shadow work. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak. This was a fantastic time, and I learned a lot from you, and I'm excited to try to put it into practice tonight.
Brilliant. Thanks so much. It's been a pleasure to chat to you.
Thank you.